These are the healthiest unhealthy things. So the healthiest candy bar is actually a payday because it's essentially just salted peanuts held together by a bit of caramel. It has 7 grams of protein and has decent monounsaturated fats. After this, your best bet would be a Snickers. Despite the aspartame, Diet Coke is considered the best for calorie restriction while still optimizing for taste, though in general, root beer is actually the healthiest soda because most are caffeine-free and contain no phosphoric acid. The healthiest fast food restaurant is Taco Bell because of high protein options with their protein cantina and fresco-style menus. Otherwise, Chipotle is thought to be the healthiest because of its options to customize and to make a relatively healthy bowl. The healthiest fries are said to be from Five Guys because they're cooked in peanut oil and contain fewer additives, and the healthiest chip would technically be popcorn because you're able to have a high volume of it without a ton of calories. The healthiest alcohol is tequila because it has low sugars compared to other cocktails and hard drinks. And finally, if you're stopping at a gas station and have to get a snack, you might as well get a hard-boiled egg, a cheese stick, or beef jerky because those are by far the healthiest you'll find there. So now you know. These are secret code names used by famous people. So presidents use Secret Service code names to make security communication quicker and clearer, with Trump's being Mogul, Obama's being Renegade, and Biden's being Celtic. Many celebrities check into hotels under different names, with Brad Pitt checking in as Bryce Pilaf, Justin Bieber under Chandler Bing, and Johnny Depp as Mr. Stench. Michael Jackson used to check into hotels as Dr. Dolittle. Queen Elizabeth was referred to as Kitty Hawk by her security detail, while Pope John Paul II had the fitting code name of Halo. Many celebrities order food under other celebrities' names to increase confusion, like George Clooney, who uses Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jay-Z, who uses Frank Sinatra. Speaking of which, Frank Sinatra is one of the only celebrities in history to have a secret government service name, being Napoleon. Tobey Maguire uses the name Neil Deep in public, which was actually leaked after the Sony hack, and Michael Jordan uses the codename Clark Kent when he's trying to be incognito. And finally, Matt Damon uses the name John President whenever he sets a reservation, so the staff is forced to call him Mr. President for the rest of his visit. Pretty cool, right? These are things that are illegal to say. So if you're on a plane, you can't say, "This is a hijack" or "I'm a terrorist," as this will have you removed from flights and banned from flying. Similarly, when in the TSA line, you can't yell, "He's got a gun," even if it's a prank. If you're on a boat, you can't yell, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday," unless there's an actual emergency, as false distress signals are punishable to the full extent of the law. You can't yell "fire" in a crowded theater, as it's incitement to panic. You also can't say, "I have a deadly virus" in a crowded area for similar reasons. You can't go up to a house and say, "This is the police, open up," as it's police impersonation, in the same way that you can't say, "I'm with the FBI," as it's an immediate felony. In the UK and Australian parliaments, rather than saying that a member lied, you can say that they made a terminological inexactitude. If you sell a medical product in the United States, you're forbidden from saying it cures or treats a disease. In the same way, if you sell a financial product, you can't call an investment 100% guaranteed or risk-free. And finally, never say, and I quote, "I'll give you $5,000 to make this person disappear," because that's criminal solicitation and you'll definitely go to jail. So don't say these. These are canceled celebrities that are popular in other countries. So Roman Polanski fled the US in 1978 following sexual abuse charges and hasn't set foot back here since, but he's considered one of the greatest living directors in France and continues to win French Oscars. Drake Bell leaned into his Mexican fan base following legal issues in 2021 and changed his Instagram handle to Drake Campana and posted exclusively in Spanish for a while. He actually lives there too now and is considered a top artist in Mexico. Woody Allen is considered the golden boy of Spain and regularly receives $1 million grants from the Spanish government to shoot movies there in order to help with tourism. This is similar to Kevin Spacey, who has been revived in Europe and given a ton of casting roles and visionary awards since they're more open to separating the art from the artist there. Rush Hour director Brett Ratner was canceled in 2017 and fled to Israel, where he's been protected and even hangs out with high-ranking officials there since they cleaned his slate. This is actually the same for X-Men director Bryan Singer as well. And finally, Ellen DeGeneres now lives in the UK following her exodus from the US due to a toxic workplace scandal, and she's even viewed there as a comedic legend. So now you know. Let's try to guess the time and place of these images. So this website's like GeoGuessr on steroids. I mean, this is definitely Europe, somewhere probably in like 1300 or something based on vibes. Maybe somewhere in Italy. I have no idea. Okay, so London in 1170. Really not terrible. All right, this is definitely Rome. I see those Roman pine trees there. Oh, this is the Great Fire. All right, so let's drop it here. I don't know when, though. Maybe around the turn of the century. Let's go 70. Oh, wow, we're close. Only 6 years off, okay. This is definitely India. Probably northern India. When? I have no idea, though. India is so historical. Let's run, like, 500. Okay, location good, but the date was way off. All right, these are definitely Egyptians. I mean, probably post-pyramids, maybe like 200 BC. Okay, location right. The time wasn't even close. All right, this is the Pompeii volcano explosion. Imagine how scary that must have been. Just watch a recreation of it. It's insane. When was Pompeii? Like 600? I feel like it could have been earlier. Let's do that. Yep, way earlier, but decent guess. I called stores at 3 a.m. to see if anybody would answer. Starting with 7-Eleven, I was surprised to actually get a pickup, and so I asked which Slurpee flavors they currently have, to which they told me the usual. Very helpful. I called a McDonald's afterwards to see if the ice cream machine was working, totally not expecting to be connected to the local restaurant, but luckily for me, the store manager actually answered and told me it was functioning, which is a rare occurrence. I called a random 24/7 gas station next to see if they would answer at this time, but I kept getting redirected to corporate, so I think they shut their phones off post midnight. I tried Planet Fitness, which is 24/7 at around 3 a.m., and I was able to connect with the night shift manager, and so so I asked about the current crowd, and she said there were a few people lifting, which saved me the hassle of seeing it for myself. I called Times Square afterwards, gauging its crowd level at 3 a.m., and the tourist hotline was busy, so I guess they were either helping a customer out or helping a YouTuber make a similar video. And so after this, I called a Waffle House, which I knew was open, but they had an AI answer and they wouldn't connect me to the store, so I hung up. And then I called CVS, hoping to find out whether an item I wanted was in stock, but they ended up hanging up as soon as I asked the question, so now you know. These are people who were buried alive. So a woman named Essie Dunbar was declared dead from a seizure, but woke up mid-burial after her sister showed up late and begged the ministers to exhume her coffin so she could say one last goodbye. Essie ended up standing up out of the coffin and walked right out of it and ended up living 47 years after that. In 2007, a Venezuelan man named Carlos Camejo died in a car accident, but when the medical examiners began the autopsy, he started bleeding, which dead people don't do, and he woke up from the sharp pain of it and just walked home. A 2-year-old Brazilian boy named Kelvin Santos was declared dead from pneumonia, but during his open casket wake, he sat up and asked his dad for a glass of water, but unfortunately immediately after he drank it, he lied back down and died again. A 91-year-old Polish woman was declared dead from a heart attack, but was found in the body bag moving 11 hours later, to which they released her and she walked out, apparently going straight to a diner to get pancakes with her niece. And finally, TJ Hoover was declared brain dead from a drug overdose, and surgeons were about to harvest his organs. However, he began crying mid-harvest and they stopped, released him, and he's actually still alive today. That's crazy. Here are famous people you've never heard of. So Susan Bennett is the voice actress behind Siri and has since technically been in direct communication with over 1 billion people through her voice. Thomas Midgley Jr. was an engineer responsible for developing leaded gasoline and Freon, both of which destroy the ozone, and he's said to have had the most disastrous impact on the atmosphere of any single organism in Earth's history. Vasily Arkhipov was a Soviet Navy officer who, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, refused to launch a nuclear torpedo against a US destroyer, which arguably stopped World War III and nuclear fallout. Norman Borlaug was an agronomist who developed disease-resistant wheat that saved over 1 billion people from starvation in India and Pakistan, making him one of the most important people in history. Also important, though, was Maurice Hillman, who single-handedly developed 40 vaccines, including those for measles, mumps, Hep A and B, and chickenpox, meaning that nearly everybody carries his work in their bloodstream. And finally, Justin Rosenstein developed the like for Facebook, which means that that product across all social media platforms has been interacted with hundreds of billions of times. Pretty cool, right? What is the worst song of all time? So, based on dislikes on YouTube, it would be Baby by Justin Bieber or Baby Shark due to their record-breaking dislikes at the time of their release, but consensus has recently turned on those as they're now more positively received. Achy Breaky Heart by Billy Ray Cyrus appears atop many lists because of seemingly dumb lyrics and being overplayed at every line dance, and Rebecca Black's song Friday is still cited as one of the worst because of its poor lyricism and rough sound. In 1997, 2 artists actually created the scientifically worst song ever called The Most Unwanted Song that purposefully incorporated the worst elements of songs and created a 25-minute opera, rap, and children's voice blended song with bagpipe and accordion instrumentals with lyrics about cowboys and holidays that is fairly unlistenable. But still, even considering this, according to numerous polls from magazines like GQ, Blender, and Rolling Stones, the #1 worst song in history is We Built This City by Starship that came out in 1985, mainly because of awkward lyrics and the creation of corporate pop hits. I listened to it and it's really not that bad, but now you know. These are kids with world records. So Michael Kearney is the youngest person to ever graduate college at 10 years old from the University of South Alabama after starting college at age 8, while Tatum O'Neal was the youngest Oscar winner ever at just 10 years old for her role in Paper Moon in 1974. Mac Rutherford was 17 years old when he became the youngest solo pilot to circumnavigate the entire globe after embarking on a 5-month journey. And the youngest billionaire is Kevin David Lehman after he inherited a 50% stake in the German drugstore chain DM at age 18. Victor D. Leon III, also known as Lil Poison, is the youngest professional gamer ever and became pro in Halo at age 6 when he signed with MLG, while Goo Corey was 12 years old when he not only won a gold medal, but also became the first person to ever land a 1080-degree turn on a vertical ramp in competition, surpassing Tony Hawk. Tucker Rosen was the youngest person to ever undergo open heart surgery, being just 24 weeks old as a fetus. He miraculously survived. And finally, Parv Thacker was the youngest person to ever release an album at just 1 year old. I listened and it's honestly not too bad. I tested every store's playground. Starting off with the McDonald's Play Place, apparently only 5% of them remain as McDonald's has been remodeling and replacing them with McCafes. Now I was really excited to try this out and I wasn't disappointed because it was overall a really fun structure with a bunch of different obstacles and it was fairly clean. From here I went to Burger King, which also has less than 5% of their playgrounds remaining, and this one was a bit underwhelming as it just had one walkthrough with a weak slide, and the only other thing they had in there was a decades-old claw machine, which I don't even think worked. Chick-fil-A was next, and they currently have the most playgrounds per capita of any fast food restaurant, and I could see why, because it was super clean and they had fun space-themed areas. They also had board games and other features in the playground that was super unique. Afterwards, I tested the Lego Store's playground exhibit area, which was fully decked out, and the playground itself was pretty robust with a lot of unique sections. And then from there, I went to the Toys R Us playground, which is admittedly just a slide, but I still enjoyed it. And finally, I tried to go to the Chuck E. Cheese's Adventure Zone playground, but Unfortunately, I was too big to go on, and they denied me. I'm sure it's a blast, though. I tried buying display items at stores. Starting with a mannequin, I was wondering if it was possible to purchase a mannequin directly off the store floor, and so I went into JD Sports inquiring exactly about that, and to my surprise, they were willing to sell it to me for a few $100, assuming I purchased everything that was on it. Afterwards, I went to a theme park because I wanted to see if it was theoretically possible to buy a roller coaster, and unfortunately, while Roller Coaster Tycoon has to be put on hold, I was able to get my hands on this Marshall-themed Paw Patrol kiddie ride that I now weirdly own. I have nowhere to put it though, so if you visit American Dream Mall, ask for the Sambucha ride. I went to an indoor ski place next looking to purchase some of the snow, and they actually let me purchase it for a couple of bucks. And then I tried to purchase one of these display sheep that were in the mall corridor, and now I'm the owner of a $300 designer sheep statue. Toys R Us had a 7-foot mega Ferris wheel that I was able to get my hands on, but this was extremely difficult to transport, but we ultimately did it. And then I tried to buy an arcade game from an arcade, but unfortunately none were decommissioned. But I did end up being offered a laser tag vest for a few $100. I don't know what to do with all this. Pew pew. These are celebrities that were banned from Disney. So Barack Obama was kicked out of Disneyland when he was in college for smoking cigarettes on the gondola of the old Skyway attraction. Similarly, Robert Downey Jr. was actually arrested at Disneyland for smoking weed on the Incredible Journey attraction. Blake Lively was banned for 1 full year at Disney for trying to sneak into a park by forging tickets. She even spent time in the Disney jail, which is just where the security holds you. Rebel Wilson received a 30-day ban in 2023 for taking a selfie inside of a secret bathroom at Club 33, which is Disney's ultra-exclusive private club, although they apparently scheduled with her when the best time to have the ban was, so I don't think it was that serious. Leonardo DiCaprio was escorted out of Disneyland in his 20s alongside his friends when he went down the water slide with a spiked belt on, which damaged the ride and caused a ruckus. Bruce Springsteen was even denied access to Disneyland in the 80s because his guitarist refused to remove his bandana, which violated the park's dress code. And finally, Grace Jones received a lifetime ban on all Disney properties after she exposed herself on stage at the Disney House of Blues. Can't be doing that. What are the most unreliable companies? So in terms of lost luggage, American Airlines mishandles more baggage than any other domestic airline, with about 8.71 bags per 1,000 checked being lost. In terms of delays, Frontier Airlines is the worst, with 28% of their flights arriving more than 15 minutes late. Popeyes has the lowest in-person order accuracy rate at just 81%, meaning for every 5 visits, you're likely to have a messed up order. And in terms of reaching a human on customer service, the least reliable is Comcast, which takes 12 minutes on average to talk to a real person. Missing packages belongs to Last Mile, who also leads in failed first delivery attempts, though FedEx's tracking notoriously leaves items in an unknown state for long. The most unreliable healthcare company for in-network claim denial rates is Oscar Health at 25.3% of claims denied. If you're in a storm area, the most unreliable energy companies are PG&E and DTE Energy, which have some of the longest average recovery times. And finally, the least reliable car brand of 2026 is Rivian, thanks to failures in hardware and software that make it very difficult to seamlessly drive. So now you know. Which fast food restaurant has the fastest Wi-Fi? Starting at McDonald's in their McCafe, I connected to McDonald's free Wi-Fi and ran the internet speed test, and I was surprised to get 113.9 megabits per second of download speed and 36.6 megabits per second for upload speed, which is good enough to stream basically. Next up was Taco Bell, which I didn't even realize had free Wi-Fi, but under Taco Bell Wi-Fi, I connected and booted up the test and was met with an alert symbol after waiting for minutes, as I think it was too slow to even register on the speed test, which was honestly expected. Next up was Dunkin', which should have been good because they're a coffee shop, and so I logged into their Dunkin' Donuts guest Wi-Fi, and this was actually incredible, posing a strong 47.8 megabits per second for download speed and a 10.8 for upload speed. And then it was time to end things at, of course, Starbucks, which was the clear frontrunner as they tout their Starbucks Wi-Fi as a prime reason to do work in their cafe. But after running the test, it only ended up registering an 11.4 megabits per second of download speed, which was 1/10 of McDonald's. So I guess the McCafe is the place to be. These are animals that will be domesticated in our lifetimes. So raccoons are currently self-domesticating in the US by evolving shorter snouts and floppier ears. They're also becoming less fearful of humans and dampening their fight or flight response. They have intelligence compared to primates as well, giving them a strong chance of entering the homes. Specific types of foxes are already entering domestication in certain parts of Russia, and they now crave human affection. They've undergone similar domestication physical transformations as raccoons, and they're expected to be mainstream pets in the next 100 years. Capybaras, while already exotic pets, are direct breeding candidates as everyday pets due to their docile temperament and social nature. If their size and coat patterns can be altered, they're likely coming home with us. Skunks are also high on the list, particularly bred ones without scent glands, as they seem to enjoy human company and don't mind socializing when treated properly. Miniature pigs will continue to be pushed for domestication after about 40 more years of selective breeding to keep them under 40 pounds. And finally, there's even a decent chance that some wild cats like ocelots could enter the mainstream soon because they're loyal and calm temperaments that they've shown in early trials. Pretty cool, right? These are rich people who gave all their money away. So Chuck Feeney, the co-founder of Duty Free Shopping, donated more than $8 billion in secret as part of his Giving While Living campaign. Despite being a billionaire, he died in 2023, being worth just $1.5 million. Andrew Carnegie, the US Steel steel magnate, gave away over $10 billion to build over 2,500 libraries, universities, and much more. He died with only 8% of his once towering $12 billion net worth. Mackenzie Scott is the fastest philanthropist in history, giving away $17 billion in 4 years following her divorce from Jeff Bezos that left her with a $60 billion fortune. Apparently, nonprofits were even ignoring her emails because they thought it was a scam and missed out on hundreds of millions of dollars. Alfred Nobel gave away 100% of his wealth after a newspaper accidentally published his obituary early, in which they called him the Merchant of Death. He went on to change his legacy and promoted peace through the creation of the Nobel Peace Prize. And finally, Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, transferred his stock to a nonprofit trust that will give away $100 million annually to charity to fight the environmental crisis. That's crazy. These are influencers that have appeared in movies. So Mr. Beast has appeared in Kung Fu Panda 4 as a voice actor for Panda Pig, and he's also starring as a voice in the Angry Birds 3 movie alongside Anthony and Ian of Smosh. Nick DiGiovanni voices a bartender iguana in Zootopia 2, while Robert Irwin voices a koala named Robert Furwin in the film. Addison Rae starred in the Netflix series Monster, playing one of Ed Gein's victims, and she's also appeared in the Thanksgiving movie Thanksgiving. The Minecraft movie had many YouTubers like Dan TDM, Aphmau, and even Technoblade's avatar appearing in this scene. Casey Neistat has appeared in multiple movies like Dared, where he steals a cop's gun, and another movie called Project Power, where he has to fight Jamie Foxx. The epic rap battle of history guys appeared as seagulls rap battling Bubbles the dolphin in the intro to Sponge Out of Water, and Tommy and Dan TDM have appeared in Black Mirror Season 7 as fighter pilots. And finally, the Australian YouTubers Raka Raka actually made a horror movie called Talk to Me that made $100 million at the box office and currently holds a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was really good. Pretty cool, right? How many patties can you order on a single burger? So many fast food spots apparently have limits set in place for maximum patties, like In-N-Out and McDonald's, which only allow 4, or Five Guys, which is rumored to max out at 8 patties. Wendy's, though, notably has a secret menu item called the T-Rex burger that comes with up to 10 patties, so I knew this was the spot to set the record. I pulled up to Wendy's and I decided to order a Dave's Triple as my base, which already has 3 of their patties atop it already, and then I proceeded to ask for 8 additional patties to go on top of it to get me to 11, and to my surprise, they were actually cool with it and they were down to make the burger. When I pulled up to the window, they were very excited to make this, and I ended up adding cheese on it as well for the full visual, and I paid my $32 and waited about 5 minutes for this monstrosity to be handed to me. And when I got this bag, it was no less than 5 pounds, and I pulled over to see what an 11 patty burger actually looked like, and when I opened it up, this is what I saw. 11 patties and everything. I actually got it, and now it's time for the taste test, and I was only able to bite 4 burgers at a time, but it was very good. So I think 11 patties is the actual limit, but I would not test it any further. This town has been on fire for 60 years. It's called Centralia, Pennsylvania, and following a coal mine fire in 1962, forced its residents to move out, seeing its population go from 1,000 people at its height to now just 4 people remaining, effectively making it a ghost town. Now, one of the biggest draws of Centralia is this abandoned road that leads into town called Graffiti Road because of the large amounts of graffiti present, but the government ultimately covered it with dirt mounds a few years ago to deter tourists from visiting. Nonetheless, though, I continued into town and I actually found the last 2 remaining houses within the city limits, even seeing one of the residents outside. There's also a Soul Church that sits atop a hill, but other than that, there's just a fire station for any obvious fires, and cemeteries where the old residents were buried. The entire grid of the old town looks like it's straight out of an apocalypse, with overgrown foliage and remains of houses and shops completely torn down now. But definitely the craziest thing about Centralia is that there's literal vents with fire smoke coming out of them because, again, the underground has been on fire for the past 60 years and will continue to be on fire for the next 200 years. Very cool. Which fast food milkshake can you hold upside down the longest? So I previously tested this at Dairy Queen and had the employee flip the blizzard until it fell after a whopping 1 minute and 21 seconds, but I figured we could beat that, and so I went to Burger King first with their chocolate shake, and I wasn't too bullish on this one, and rightfully so, because it didn't last a single second before it fell right out. Next was on to McDonald's and their vanilla shake, and this was a similar story, falling out immediately, but how about their McFlurry, which is a bit thicker, and well, I flipped this over and I was standing there for a while, in fact about 50 seconds before that fell out, putting it close but still not beating the Dairy Queen blizzard. And so I moved on to Starbucks, where I got their Pup Cup, and I thought this would beat it since it's whipped cream, but this was surprisingly only around 13 seconds before that fell. But I still had faith because the last place I had to try was Wendy's and their Frosty, which is the same viscosity as the blizzard, and so I thought it would be close, but after flipping it over, I was waiting there for not 1, not 2, but a little over 3 minutes before this thing ultimately decided to fall out, meaning that by far the Frosty is superior when it comes to staying in the cup. So now you know. These are the most attractive female stats according to dating sites. So the single strongest physical filter for guys is by far body type, with a fit or athletic build receiving the highest amount of swipes. Curvy body types perform well, interestingly, on different apps, but the ideal waist to hip ratio is approximately 0.7, which signals fertility subconsciously to men. Height, interestingly, has very little bearing on swipes and attraction, though 5'3" to 5'6" is generally the sweet spot. Women over 5'10" receive less swipes, but only for men who are shorter than them. Peak age for optimal swipes is 22, though there's good data supporting up to 29. Swipes do start to get difficult after 30 as the fertility window shortens. Career and education have very minimal effects on swipes for women, though healthcare and teaching roles have a slight boost. High status careers do not increase attractiveness in the same way they do for men. Money and net worth also have no impact, and interestingly, overt wealth can actually even hurt results. But actually, the best thing that a woman can do for attractiveness is smile with their teeth, which improves swipes by 14%, though 98% of women will achieve multiple swipes a day regardless, according to data provided by dating sites. So now you know. These are famous people that have eaten people. So Isai Sagawa was a Japanese student in Paris who killed and ate his classmate. He was declared insane and deported back to Japan, where he became a minor celebrity and wrote books about his crime, and even worked as a food critic for a bit before dying in 2022. In 1972, a plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team crashed in the Andes Mountains, and they were stranded there for 72 days, and they decided to eat the deceased passengers to remain alive. They used broken glass nearby to butcher the remains, and initially actually denied eating them until later at a press conference they admitted it. This is similar to a group of early American pioneers called the Donner Party who got trapped by snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains and resorted to eating each other, with some even surviving. Armie Hammer was accused of being a cannibal after leaked DMs showing him saying, "I am 100% a cannibal and I want to eat you" to women. He has thoroughly denied these allegations though, but he has still been blacklisted from Hollywood as a result. And finally, Jeffrey Dahmer is the most famous cannibal in history, having eaten the hearts and biceps of many men and boys in the 1980s so that they could be a part of him. That's crazy. I ordered the first ever menu item from fast food spots, starting with McDonald's, whose first product was unsurprisingly a single hamburger, which is no longer a top 5 item of theirs, and I could see why, because a burger without cheese is pretty boring, and this thing was just generally sad looking, although it did have onions and ketchup on it. This is similar to Burger King, whose first item was their signature Whopper, which always feels like it's going to be good, but always disappoints. Dunkin's first item was their old-fashioned donut, which literally has no flavor whatsoever and felt like I was eating nothing, making it actually my least favorite donut from Dunkin'. Wendy's debuted with a menu containing burgers, fries, and other items, but there's a claim that the first official menu item ever sold was actually their chili, which is just grounded hamburger beef mixed with tomato sauce and beans, and I'm always a big fan of this. KFC's first item was, of course, their iconic 2-piece fried chicken meal, specifically a thigh and a wing, and I always forget how solid their chicken is because I absolutely love this. And then I decided to end things at Taco Bell, with their first menu item being their signature crunchy taco, which continues to be one of the best inaugural food items from any fast food spot. Very cool. Here are things that you didn't realize were named after celebrities. So the Hermes Birkin bag was named after Jane Birkin after an Hermes executive met her on an airplane and noticed her needing a practical but stylish travel bag. The teddy bear was named after President Theodore Roosevelt after he refused to shoot a bear during a hunting trip. They ended up giving him the namesake. Even the sandwich was named after the Earl of Sandwich in the UK because he would have his servants give him meat between 2 pieces of bread to keep his hands clean. Genius. Many animals are oddly named after celebrities, like the Gaga plant named after Lady Gaga because one stage of its life cycle resembles a Lady Gaga costume. The Scaptia Beyonce horsefly named after Beyonce because it has shiny golden hairs on its abdomen. And the Nanaria swifty millipede named after Taylor Swift because the scientist is a big fan. For Ben & Jerry's, their Cherry Garcia flavor is named after Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead, and even their fish food flavor is named after the band Fish. And finally, apparently over 50% of people don't realize that the drink Arnold Palmer was named after the iconic Hall of Fame golfer, so now you know. What is the heaviest fast food item? Starting at McDonald's, and theirs is the double quarter pounder with cheese, which just by name alone sounds pretty heavy, and this was absolutely heavy, weighing in at 10.2 ounces, which is nearly 2/3 of a pound. Next up was Taco Bell, and theirs is the grilled cheese steak burrito, and on paper this thing seemed massive, but it was a bit smaller in person, and this was reflected in its weight at 6.7 ounces. Next up was Dunkin', and theirs was the ultimate bacon jam breakfast sandwich, which looked pretty measly, but ended up being slightly under Taco Bell's at 6.5 ounces, McDonald's still being in the lead. But this was up until I went to Wendy's when I ordered their Big Bacon Classic Triple, which has 3 patties atop it with bacon as well, and this thing was incredibly heavy just by feel, and it ended up being almost a full pound at 14.5 ounces. And I thought for sure this couldn't be beat, but then I went to Burger King and ordered their heaviest, the Triple Whopper, which was hard enough to lift, but these 3 juicy Burger King patties packed a real punch, weighing in at 14.6 ounces, barely edging out Wendy's and claiming the record for the heaviest fast food item. Very cool. These are words that were invented by movies, TV shows, and music. So the word gaslighting originated from the movie Gaslight, which featured a husband psychologically manipulating his wife into doubting reality. The term bucket list was actually invented in 2007 for the movie The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson to describe experiences they wanted to achieve before they kicked the bucket. Dr. Seuss actually invented the word nerd in his book If I Ran the Zoo, in which the accompanying illustration showed a small weird humanoid creature, and Catch-22 originated from the 1961 novel of the same name that reflects a no-win scenario for people. The word catfish originated from the TV show called Catfish, which sought to cover how online catfishes operate behind the scenes, and the word stan originated from an Eminem song in the same name to describe a crazy fan. The word muggle that people commonly use to define people outside of a group was coined in Harry Potter to define non-magical people, and the word regift to describe giving a gift that you were already gifted was actually coined by Seinfeld in 1995. But finally, the first recorded use of YOLO, meaning you only live once, originated from Drake and Lil Wayne's songs The Motto in 2011. Pretty cool, right? These are app features that were recently discontinued. So Microsoft officially retired Skype in 2025 to encourage users to migrate to Microsoft Teams as it's more modern and integrated. The YouTube trending tab was officially discontinued in mid-2025 to make way for more genre-specific charts, and the TikTok TikTok Creator Marketplace was discontinued around that same time as it's being replaced with TikTok One, an AI-powered platform. Instagram has discontinued the ability to follow hashtags in the main feed in favor of their main algorithm, while Google Pay was eliminated last year, which previously allowed users to send or receive money. Google is also ending Google Assistant on mobile, tablet, and smartwatches in favor of Gemini AI by the end of 2025. Pocket, which was a content-saving tool from Mozilla, has officially been retired as of July, with most of these features now just being rolled into Firefox, and Google Play is removing Android Instant apps at the end of 2025 because of low user engagement. And finally, on theme, Google has also gotten rid of Jamboard, a whiteboard app that offered collaboration with others, and Tables, an Airtable competitor, last year, with no plans of bringing them back. So rest in peace. What is the most amount of food you can order at a drive-thru? So I pulled up to Taco Bell with the goal of ordering as many items as I could until they cut me off and told me I had to come inside, and so I started rattling off menu items, starting off with the value menu and making my way all the way through. Now, since the average drive-thru order consists of just 3 items, I figured I get stopped around 15 or 20, but to my surprise, she was completely unfazed and didn't interrupt me a single time, despite the fact that I was literally just reading off the menu board. On the 21st item I ordered, she did interrupt though, and I thought she was going to tell me the order was too large to place at the drive-thru, but she instead just told me that they were out of this limited time purple Baja Blast. And so I continued ordering until I quite literally ordered every single Taco Bell menu item, which, if you're wondering, was $112.20 for 33 items. She told me to pull around, and I was really expecting her at this point to tell me to come inside, which would semi-defeat the goal, but even crazier, they actually delivered it to me all in one giant bag in less than 5 total minutes. So I guess the answer is unlimited, and shout out to Taco Bell. These are companies with dark origins. So Volkswagen was founded in 1937 under the Nazi Party from direct orders from Adolf Hitler, who wanted a cheap, simple vehicle for the German public. Their first factory was actually built using labor from concentration camps. Similarly, Hugo Boss was the official uniform supplier of the Third Reich, with Hugo Boss himself being an active member of the Nazi Party. IBM originally provided the precise technology for mass-scale human tracking, which was used in the war, and their engineers would often be on site to manage prisoner accounts and logistics. Chiquita Bananas had brutal labor practices that led to the Banana Massacre in 1928, where the Colombian military opened fire on striking workers to protect their profits. They also bribed public officials to back a coup in Guatemala for similar reasons. JP Morgan's previous entity actually used to accept enslaved people as collateral for loans, meaning if plantation owners defaulted on their loans, the bank would possess the slaves. And finally, Chanel's owner, Coco Chanel, was actually a secret Nazi intelligence operative known as Agent F7124, and ultimately used her connections so she could try to seize control of the perfume company. That's crazy. What is the most expensive fast food item? So at KFC, you can get their chicken pot pie for $8.29, which is fairly reasonable given the large amount of food you get, and it's pretty fun to eat. At Arby's, you can get their half-pound beef and cheddar sandwich for $8.59, which I highly suggest against because it was absolutely disgusting. Popeye serves popcorn shrimp at their steepest price, coming in at $9, and this is actually a hidden gem on the menu and a great value for the amount and quality of shrimp that you get. Taco Bell's priciest item is surprisingly their steak power bowl, which was $9, which I'll actually say isn't too bad considering the fact it's a Chipotle knockoff and it actually does include guac on it. Next up, we have Wendy's and Burger King with their Big Bacon Classic Triple and Triple Whopper going for $11.07 and $8.59 respectively. If you like meat, these are for you. I thought they were pretty solid, but definitely pricey. This also goes for McDonald's most expensive item, which is their double quarter pounder with cheese for $7. But I think the most surprising expensive item belongs to Dunkin' and their omelet egg bites, coming in at $6.19 for the 2 of them. And while they were definitely good, it's crazy that these things were over $6. So now you know. These are emergency numbers that everybody should know. So 741-741 is the texting version of 911 where you can enter a text-based counseling session if you don't want to speak out loud. In many buildings, if you dial 933 on the office phone, it will trigger an automated voice that reads you back your exact location in case you're ever kidnapped. 911 operators will use this to know exactly where you are in a building. This number is called the pep talk number, and you'll hear kindergartners giving you life advice or words of encouragement if you're ever upset. And if you call this number, then an AI voice will repeat your phone number back to you so you know if your caller ID is working correctly. VHF channel 16 is the internal distress frequency, so if you're on a boat, this is the 911 of the sea to broadcast to the Coast Guard. If you're in other countries outside of the Americas, then 112 is your safest bet to remember, as that's the global standard for emergencies, though 999 is still used in the UK, Ireland, and Singapore. And finally, if your car is ever stuck on a railroad track, don't call 911 first, but rather find the blue sign with a cross ID phone number on it, which will connect you to dispatchers who will be able to stop the train in its track, potentially saving your life. So now you know. These are the biggest lawsuits ever. So Volkswagen's Dieselgate scandal in 2016 resulted in $14.7 billion having to be paid out to owners for buybacks. More than this, though, is the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill that same year, which was a $20.8 billion settlement for its damage to the local ecosystem. Even more than this, though, was for Visa and MasterCard, who were charged $38 billion in an antitrust lawsuit from merchants claiming that they charge excessive swipe fees. In 2011, a Texas jury awarded a symbolic $150 billion to the family of a boy who was murdered, though there's not an expectation for that to ever be paid. A big tobacco master settlement agreement involving tobacco companies like Philip Morris resulted in $206 billion paid out to victims to cover their healthcare costs, which is officially the largest official lawsuit in history. Though technically, a woman named Antonia Armato sued the city of New York, various banks, and even a Kmart for $2 undecillion because she was bit by a dog, which was dismissed by the judge immediately, but technically holds the record for the largest legal ask in history. That much money doesn't even exist on Earth. What is the longest name in the world? Well, the longest non-hyphenated name that more than 1 million people in the world have is actually Christopher at 11 letters, but the longest given full name of anybody belongs to a Hawaiian person named Janice Kehana Ikuio Akakio Liea Kaha Ona Ile, which is 42 letters. Hawaii actually had to update their ID system because of this name alone. And while that's technically the longest name given at birth, some people have changed their names to be even longer, like a man named Hubert Wolfeschleigel, whose full name officially recognized in US court documents at 746 letters is Adolph Blaine Charles David Earl Frederick Gerald Hubert, and then 8 more alphabetical given names followed by a multi-hundred letter German compound name. But even that falls short of the longest claimed name ever that wasn't officially recognized but still used regularly, and that belongs to a German man named Captain Leone, whose name was over 1,000 letters long, looking something like Captain Leone Sextus Dennis Oswald Frada Tefilius, followed by a 900 letter surname. That's just inconvenient.
কি হইছে বলতো? আর বলিস না, তোরে যে বুকিং দিছে সে তখন আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
দিশান ও দরজা লাগিয়ে দিতে ও দরজা লাগিয়ে দিতে কই যায় কই যা
আমরা তো বিয়েই দিয়ে দিবে বাসা থেকে।
মাম্মা লাভ স্টোরি তো শুরু করে দিলা। ভালো 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 মালটারে কি পড়ানো যায়?
তুই একটা কাম কর, আজকে থেকে আমি তোমার তুমি আমার ব্যাস ডিসিশন ফাইনাল বুকিং দিয়ে রাখলাম, ঠিক আছে? কি খবর তোমাদের, কেমন আছো তোমরা সবাই? ভালো তো না? তুমি জানো তোমায় কালকে তো কতবার বলছি।
হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
কি রে এদার ওয়েন মানা করতেছি কিছু না কিছু। আগে আপনি জানেন আমি একবার অসুস্থ হয়ে গেছিলাম, ও আমাকে রক্ত দেয়নি, আর আজকে আপনাকে রক্ত দিয়ে চিঠি লিখছে।
কালকে সারা রাত তোমার আমি কল দিচ্ছি।
সারা রাত? তাহলে আপনি শুনুন আপনার ভালোবাসার মানুষের অতীত বর্তমান। পাগল কোন একদম ঠিক হয়, ওনার ব্যথা লাগে নাই?
ব্যথা তো বেশি তুমি
নিয়ে ব্যথা লাগছে মানে?
বন্ধু তুই চিন্তা করিস না রে, ভাবির মন ঠিকই গলে যাবে।
ভাবির মন তো ঘুরবে কিন্তু
আরে না না না
সম্ভব না। গাড়ি ঘুরা তো
হঠাৎ আমার বাসার নিচে কোনো জরুরি দরকার?
তুমি কি আজকে কোচিং এ যাও নাই? সুন্দর মতো যাবি, ভাবির নামটা জিজ্ঞাসা আর শোন ভালো মতো কথা কবে, ভাবি লাগে খালি থাপড় আর চাপাবাজি এই বাদে আর কিছু পাচ্ছস? বুকিং মানে বুকিং, তুমি আমার আমি তোমার বুকিং দিয়ে দিয়েছি ফাইনাল।
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত? তোর যে আশিক আছে না, এখন তো আমার পিছনে লাগছে। আমার তো অনেক ভয় লাগতেছে দোস্ত, এই যে আস্তে আস্তে সব মানুষ জানবে, তারপর আমার ফ্যামিলিকেও জানাই দিবে। আর আমার
এন্ড বেস্ট অফ লাক ফর ডক্টরশিপ। আমি দোয়া করি তুমি যেন একজন ভালো ডক্টর হও।
আমার কাছে জিনের বাচ্চার নাম্বার আছে। জিনের বাচ্চা
করতে চাস নাকি ইটিস পিটিস করতে চাস? বদতমিজ।
হ্যালো বন্ধু,
আমার ওদের দিছস
এই তো দিছি তো, ঠিক মতো তো দিছস।
কি শুনতে চান? আমি আপনাকে ভালোবাসি?
ফোন দিয়ে যেতেছি তুমি ফোনই ধরো না, তোমার ফোন ধরার কোনো নামই নাই, কোনো কথা, তোমার ফোন ধরো না কেন?
এবারে এক্সামের প্রিপারেশন কিরকম তোদের? আমি তো খুবই এক্সাইটেড, কারণ আমার প্রিপারেশন খুবই ভালো।
জিসান দরজা খোল।
কি বুঝতেছি না। সুন্দর মতো যাবি, ভাবির নামটা জিজ্ঞাবি। আর শোন, ভালো মতো কথা কবে, ভাবি লাগে। খালি ফাপড় আর চাপাবাজি, ফাপড় আর চাপাবাজি, এই বাদে আর কিছু পারছস?
বুকিং?
বুকিং মানে বুকিং, তুমি আমার আমি তোমার, বুকিং দিয়ে দিছি, ফাইনাল।
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত? তোর যে আশিক আছে না, এখন তো ও আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
এই এই দুলাভাই সামনে থাকলে যে সালাম দিতে হয়, আপনি শিখাই নাই তোরা? কেমন আছো তুমি?
ভালো।
আমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করবো না? রক্তটা দিবি তুই?
আমি কেন রক্ত দেবো? প্রেম খরচ তুই, রক্ত।
আমার বন্ধু জিসান আপনাকে অনেক ভালোবাসে ভাবি, আপনার ওর রক্ত যাওয়াটা বিধে হতে দিবেন না ভাবি।
These are things you're allowed to own, but you can't sell. So if you find a bald eagle feather on the ground, you're able to keep and display it, but you're strictly prohibited from selling it and face a $100,000 fine and a year in prison if you do, thanks to wildlife protection laws. Many high-end cars like Ferraris don't allow you to sell the car for 24 months after owning it. They can actually sue you and blackball you forever if that's the case. If you get access to a moon rock and try to sell it, the FBI or NASA will set up a sting operation to arrest you since it's technically federal property. The Medal of Honor is the only military medal with a no-profit law, so you're technically not allowed to sell it, and you're also unable to sell any of your organs and can land in jail for 5 years for doing so. If you hunt a deer, you're allowed to feed your family with it, but selling it to anybody else is illegal since wild game isn't USDA inspected. This is the same for raw milk, so you can drink it from your own cow, but nobody else can. You can't sell your social media handles as it's against TOS, nor can you sell your airline miles as that will get you a lifetime ban. And finally, you can't sell any digital game, movie, or song that you own because you technically own the license and not the file. You gotta get the physical.